Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Cheese and the Alien Show. I'm the Cheese. I will be your host for this week's edition. There was so much to talk about from this Richmond racing weekend that I'll try to move quickly, but not too quickly to skip any of the important parts, of course. First of all, congratulations to the Busch brothers for the weekend sweep, with Kurt winning on Friday night, and Kyle on Saturday night, even though it was Kyle's car that won Friday night. It's great to see him get the first wins. He has worked hard, and he's had about every bad break that he possibly could with his new Nationwide Series team this year, that even though I'm not a fan, it was nice to see his hard work finally pay off for him, and Kurt got to enjoy it along with him. And then the next night, Kyle continuing his streak of spring wins at the Richmond race for the fourth year in a row. Not an easy feat at all, especially on a short track. So congratulations to both the Busch brothers. Now the rest of the show, I know we kind of go in order of importance usually, but since there was so much in my notes this week and the alien, and I couldn't even narrow anything down, so I'm going to go in somewhat of a chronological order, so bear with me. We're going to try this out this week, see how it works. First of all, the penalties that were given to the RCR and Turner Nationwide teams. All 6 cars between the two teams were basically failed in pre-race inspection for something to do with their front bumper covers on their cars being altered a little too much for NASCAR's liking. And we would like to say that we like that there was no points deducted. Like I, in talking to the alien, had said that the cars never hit the track. So to take points away is not fair to the drivers. Although if you ask some of them, they claim that these were cars that they've raced in previous races that have gone through inspection. So kind of curious to see what's going on there. But as I heard today, the Penske cars have been told to fix the same part, the same front bumper cover for the Talladega race now from their pre-race inspection. So we'll have to keep an eye out, see what's going on with all these cars failing pre-race inspection in the Nationwide Series. There were so many, even though we're a couple months into the racing season now, so many series debuts and even a season debut at the Richmond Nationwide race, which will start off our shout-outs. First of all, Ryan Blaney, at the young age of 18, finishing 7th in his first Nationwide race, and if you look, it was almost all Cup regulars, and then the top 2 in points were the only people that finished ahead of him in the race. So for him to do better than so many more people, he's definitely going to be one to watch in the coming years, and excited to see him race in the Nationwide Series. Stephen Wallace, we know we've joked and warned about his return to the Nationwide Series and for everyone to watch out, but we'll give him a shout out for finishing 11th, a strong return, especially in a brand new car for him, and for not wrecking anybody to get there. The biggest debut of the weekend was Travis Pastrana's finally getting to start in the Nationwide Series after all this wait. And 22nd, which is still a solid finish. I know he was a couple laps down, but 22nd is still, on a short track, a great finish to brag about for your first time, except he wasn't too thrilled that both of the girls beat him, even if it was only by a couple positions. So congratulations to the girls for that. The last Nationwide debut that kind of got overshadowed in all this excitement over Blaney and Pastrana was Tanner Berryhill, so we'll give Tanner a shout out for finishing 29th in his Nationwide Series debut. And our last shout out from the Nationwide race is Johanna Long for finishing 20th and the top female. She's been strong in all of the races she's raced this year. Not quite full time, but another young one that we're happy to see, and especially I like to see the females come in and do well. Now, if any of you had seen some of the pre-race and even NASCAR Now shows last week, they showed that Jimmy Johnson helped Travis Pastrana with his new hairstyle, gave him a mullet, and says he's not allowed to cut it until he wins in the Nationwide Series, which we all know could take a while, even in the good equipment that he has. and the talent in the racing world that he does have. It's going to take him a while to get that win, but Jimmy says that he can cut that mullet off, and it's definitely a good one. Fits right in. Thank you, Jimmy, for that one. That's our fashion segment for the week. We were very excited to find out that the Dash for Cash returns to the Nationwide Series this summer, and the Aliens even more excited that it will end at her sort of hometown track of Iowa Speedway. So a good short track finish for the last Dash for Cash race. We're very excited to see that come back. It produced some great competition between some of those high rollers in the Nationwide Series last year to help set them away from the Cup Series. And then after the race weekend, Mike Wallace's 01 team, his hauler caught fire back at the shop, but luckily we're happy to hear that both of his cars, his primary and his backup for Talladega, and the tractor, truck, whatever you want to call it, were safe from the fire. Unfortunately, the hauler's a total loss, but we hope that such a small team like that can rebound and use that as even more reason to do well this weekend at Talladega. On to the Cup race. Our shout-outs for this race would be Mark Martin for his 53rd career pole. Now that would be my grandmother's favorite driver, being from Arkansas. So shout out for Mark for such a great career even at his age. And Landon Cassill for qualifying 21st, finishing 20th, which of course doesn't sound that great, but for a team that's only been around for 8-10 weeks, it's probably a little bit longer than that, but it was just before the season started. So great to hear that the team is already climbing their way up the ladder that quickly. And the 99 team for finally leading some laps and showing their strength this year, that strength that we saw all of last year and even in the chase, then rebounding after that penalty, which I'll get to in a minute. So congratulations to the 99 team for all that hard work. The next big thing that happened in the race was all of the commotion going on in the 27 and 48 pits with the runaway tire on pit road because the 48 team had left theirs out and it was in the way of the 27 team, and almost saw one of those classic NASCAR fights from back in the old days before I was born. And not always the best thing for the teams or the poor crew chiefs having to deal with all of this, but gave us some excitement watching back home to show that we don't need yellows to have excitement on the track or even in the pits. Lastly, for the excitement of that race, we all know was that penalty on close to the final restart of the race for the 99 car, because as usual NASCAR's communication was a little off. We know it happens, but if your communication's a little bit off, then you need to wait to throw the green flag. It's what we're supposed to do. It's what we do in most other situations. I haven't been one to criticize them for the lack of yellow flags. That's not really NASCAR's fault. To change it around is kind of changing the integrity of the sport, but this is also something that's really damaging their integrity here and going ahead with that green flag when you had two people on the front row that both thought they were the leader. And then making the call of having him jump, because Carl had jumped the restart. I'll admit that he did. But in other cases, we've seen it in the past where one car might start a little bit early, and like Carl said, he had to get as great of a jump as he could because he was disadvantaged on the outside, thinking he was the leader. But why did we go ahead and completely make him give up all those spots, black flag him? That whole restart was a mess. Sounds like NASCAR's covering their butts once again. I don't think I had seen a call that bad since the Indy race at Loudon last year where they decided to restart in the rain, which if anybody's watched more than 2 minutes of an Indy race, especially on an oval, you don't even consider running in the rain, even under caution. I would compare that call and Saturday night's race to that Colin Loudon last year. They were that poorly made. As an Edwards fan, I was even more upset. Any other time, someone going a little bit before the block, especially as close as Carl was, would have gotten a warning or the chance to give up his spot, even though a lot of people are thinking, including Jimmy Spencer, for anybody who watched Race Hub earlier this week, thinking that Tony set Carl up to jump him on the restart. And the more I watch the video, the more it looks like it. And I'm a person who respects Tony. I'm not a fan, but I respect him as a driver, and that was a bit of a dirty move there, Tony. If you didn't think you could win the race under your own power, then playing a little bit dirty for my liking there. At the same time, I think NASCAR decided to play it once again to try and make it so Junior could finally win a race for the first time in I don't even know how many years. I don't keep track. I could care less. I'm tired of hearing about it. But once again, Junior still couldn't win it, even with NASCAR trying to bend the rules, like Charlotte last year where they threw the caution to let him get up there, and he ran out of fuel anyways. It seems to blow up in their face every time, so I don't know why we continue to bend the rules and make it unfair for the other 42 drivers. That's how it goes. Getting a little tired of it, NASCAR, not gonna lie. And then again, that final yellow flag, 2 laps from the end, supposedly for debris. There's some people that were told it was a water bottle, and some of them made a good point. If it was a water bottle and wasn't in the race group, should we have even thrown the caution? I agree with them. They shouldn't have. But other reports are saying it was a piece of sheet metal or a piece off of a car. That yeah, it was legitimate, but we were never told what that piece of debris was. Nobody knows for sure. There's so many different stories going on there. It just makes you question the credibility of NASCAR even more. We'll have to keep them, a watch out for that as well. How their credibility is going to stand up, because it's really not looking good right now. One last piece of news is that a new crew chief was announced for Eric Almirola's 43 car. Excited to announce that Mike Ford, who was formerly Denny Hamlin's crew chief for most of his career, will now be on Almirola's team. Hopefully that can get them with some stronger finishes and make them even more competitive for the wins this year. And I would also like to announce that finally, after many, many weeks of losing, even by very slim margins to the alien, that I was able to win fantasy this week. It's our little competition for those of you that watch us every week. And I was very thankful to the 99 team for their comeback. That was the car to continue my streak for 4 weeks. Made it into the top 10 just in time at the end of the race with some good hard racing. So thank you to the 99 team for that. And we're glad you joined us for this entire long episode on Richmond, and we're excited for Talladega this weekend. We hope you are, and enjoy the racing.